Yeah.
Somebody's not hearing anything.
Yeah. Yeah. Most. Yeah.
I hear a hot mic with a lady's voice on it someplace there.
A hot mic with a lady's voice.
Or a hot lady with a mic.
Well, no, it's somebody in the room speaking, and I hear a woman's voice and a man's voice. That's all I can tell you.
It's the two of you.
Lon says he's not her. What are they talking about? CIA?
Yeah.
Sorry about the voice. Apparently this got worse over time. Welcome to net control operations. Anybody know what a net control is? And you're going up, that's good. And how many people are here in net control operations? Yay.
Have been or current?
Well, that's good, either one. Audio's on. Oh, it's got a camera over there. Okay, hold on. Let's kill that. Well, that might be able to audio again. Yeah, so we'll leave it alone. We had some of our friends dropped the power supply for the mixer, and it's now in two pieces. And it's not powering or supplying, so that's what caused us our grieving morning. Sorry about that. But yeah, net control operators, how many here run nets currently? Okay, all of you people, at the end of the deal, we're gonna come up and do a roundtable. So I'm giving you a warning to talk about your net and how you can get new people involved as net control operators. So hopefully we've got one of every net here. If not, we'll get some folks to double duty. So the idea is, what's a net control? Amateur radio operators run networks. We call them nets or networks on the air for many reasons. Whoops. No, we're not that done. Net control operators run these nets. It is not their frequency when they run the net. We share frequency with others. So if you think you have a net at a certain time on a certain frequency, and somebody else is already talking there, what do you gotta do?
Wait, or go somewhere else.
Or go somewhere else. Typically, when we'll see the next slide or two, that they'll say plus or minus a certain frequency. And what that means is, if you don't hear them there, go up 3 kilohertz on HF, do that kind of thing. On VHF, typically you wait. You know, when it's Chris, John, you wait till he's finished. Or you politely say, hey, we got a net at 8 o'clock. And that person will usually say, oh, I didn't realize it was 8 o'clock, sorry. And they go away. So you don't own the nets, you're there to control the nets and put it in a decent amount of chaos for the thing. It depends on what net you're running for how much chaos you have. Can anybody relate to that on nets that we run here? Gail? The gossip net, the MAC net have more chaos. The weather nets better have less chaos. The idea there is to transmit just short bursts and make stuff happen. So you'll see a different level of chaos on all those things. We're going to talk about how you do the nets, how you become a net control operator. And we have a great need. The reason that I'm doing it is that I've always said I wanted to do one of these presentations, and the net control manager said, do it now, we need people. Right, Mike?
Yes, sir.
SCARS runs a bunch of HF nets or near HF. 6 meters is technically VHF, so we don't count that one, but as HF, but it acts as an HF net around here. It's on a sideband frequency. The 6 meter net, how many people go to the 6 meter net? How many people have 6 meter capability and don't go to the net? Yeah, okay, there's opportunities there. It is on or about 50.2 megahertz. And you said, as you say, I put plus or minus on that frequency. So if somebody else is talking there, you may have to go up a little bit or down a little bit. And NITS may have a convention that, you know, this net always goes up. I don't know, does the 6-meter net have something like that? Where if you gotta go up, you move up, first usually just dead. The Wednesday night 10-meter net meets at 28,445 plus or minus. Both of them are upper sideband every Wednesday at 8 o'clock. So who's on the 8 to 10 o'clock net? Oh, who has 10 meters and doesn't get on the net? Yeah, get on the nets. They're a great way to get your operations up and running. And we also run, I think I did the numbers, we do about 56 nets per month at SCAR. We do the math to get line. Now you see why we need net control operators. And all the net control, like, what? There's only like 3 units. Yeah, that's right. The MacNet runs every day, but
They, 9 o'clock, Monday through Saturday,
Monday through Saturday, so it meets every day and Sunday,
except
With
for
the
the,
exception of today.
with the exception of people on the VHF. We do the Tuesday night Aries net. We do the UHF net, siren net, typically there. And we also do weather nets whenever it's needed, kind of thing. So more details is on the screen. I'll back up. All of this presentation is on the web at w5nor.org/net control. So this presentation is there, plus I've got a bunch of other goodies that you can find as well. So if you're bored, go over there now and go look at it. I don't care. So all the details are on meetings, our nets are on the meetings page /meetings. So you can jump in there and do that. Traffic, what kind of different nets are there? Traffic nets, anybody here into traffic, NTS, National Traffic System? Ooh, we can get more people involved. Bob Rogers is one that's big. Ed Hatch, who is not here today, is the state traffic coordinator, and a net control or a net control traffic passes radiograms. And I know we've done that in the past on another presentation, but the idea is you pass a radiogram from, let's say, me to Lamar, and it can go from across town or it can go across the country, and that traffic is the same way. So traffic nets we do a lot of the traffic in Oklahoma on WinLink, a lot of it through Larry's gateway. And then we have a VHF gateway that you can put WinLink traffic through there. It's a very good way to do it. It gets through no matter what the weather conditions are. And we do a lot of good stuff. How many here know what the 7290 traffic net is? Oh, 7290 trafficnet.org is on the piece. You can pull it up later. Those people run a net twice a day and they pass traffic. So if it comes out from the West Coast, they get it, pass it through to Oklahoma folks that will take that traffic and deliver it. What's the traffic? It's a piece of message that say, hey, happy birthday. What's going on? How you doing? Those kind of things. In weather, in severe weather things, it could be, I'm okay, you know, hey, Uncle Bob, I'm okay. And it's our job to get those passed, whether there's a local telephone system or not. But traffic nets are big. If you listen on the net, you can kind of hear those guys talking about traffic. Most of them, they talk a little bit about traffic and a lot about their goiters and surgeries and all that stuff. But those nets are formal traffic nets. Training nets, an example of a training net is our Tuesday night Aries net. We try to train people to play along and do well with the net and provide some tidbits for future operations. Weather nets, we do weather nets. Mark and Mike are the 2 weather net drivers at this point. And if we have a weather net up, you can show up on 14506 net and they will have either have information or they may open a net. We'll talk about the difference in a little bit on a couple other slides. Siren net. How many people active in the siren net? There you go. There. How many people don't know we have a siren? Okay. Oh, well, yeah, Rodney. Thanks, Rodney. He lives under a siren, don't you? No. The Saturday afternoon on the UHF repeater, we do a siren net. Then we report for Norman, Moore, Noble, and yes. So we report those. That's all on the w5nor.org/siren piece. But those nets are directed nets where the net control will go down the list, get everybody who's on that list and request what that status is of their piece. At the end of the net, they will ask, is there anybody else who has a report? And if you're new, that's where you can jump in and say, I don't have anything to report, but I'm new, I'd like to get involved. Or I have a siren that nobody listed, we do want to report, and they'll say, yeah, where's it at? And you can add yours. So even if you're not a member of the net, you can add your stuff at the end, which is a nice way to do that. We make those special nets working. There's other special nets, but that's the most used one here in town. Chit chats, I love Denny's word, the chit chat word. Gossip net is a chit chat net. That runs at 8:30 on the SCARS repeater after the Aries net. And again, they're all on the meetings page. Two different kinds of nets, a directed net and an informal direct or an informal non-directed net. A directed net is going to be like most of the ones that we run. You're going to go down the list and you're going to say, the net control operator is going to ask for a person's call. And then they're going to come back and hopefully that guy responds. And they're going to ask for the next one and the next one and the next one. So they will direct that net traffic through the net control. So any piece of traffic, if you want to talk to somebody on the net, if I'm talking on the net, excuse me, and Gary's on the net, and if I want to talk to Gary, I can't call him straight. I have to call the net control operator and say, hey, net control operator, this is N5HZR, I'd like to talk to, and then make my contact. And usually they'll say, make your call. Then you would call them direct and then pass that. When you're done, you'll say back to the net, I'm done, I'm finished. So those directed nets are important. That net control operator, I'll say owns, and everything has to go through the net. A non-directed net or informal net is usually what our normal transmissions are, where I'm talking to somebody and they return back. And when you have a non-directed net, a good example is we have early days with DMR. Every night about 10:30, there was a group of about half a dozen of us that would get on the DMR channel. And we had people, David Holden was coming in from Dubai, and Core was coming in from Singapore, and Ed and I would be here in town. We had a net, but it was an informal net. So it was quiet. We were all probably working on projects. Somebody, hey, how do you do this? You don't have to worry about call signs. You don't have to go for it. So those are the two different pieces. But most of the nets that you hear are directed. Do not call a station that's not the net control. Okay, here's my video. Let's see if we can get Michael doing this. Who knows this guy?
Today on Ham Radio Q&A, what do you need to know to become a net control operator? Well, keep watching to find out. Hi, I'm Michael, KB9VBR, your host for Ham Radio Q&A. I'm on a mission to inspire and educate the amateur radio community, so if this is your first time watching, please consider hitting that subscribe button. Well, one big aspect of amateur radio is to provide a public service. The FCC acknowledges that, and in the first paragraph of the Part 97 rules, they say recognition and enhancement of the value of the amateur radio service to the public as a voluntary non-commercial communication service. Plus, in the following paragraph, they also include the words expansion of the existing reservoir within the amateur radio service of trained operators, technicians, and electronics experts. Well, a great way to provide a public service and maintain your skill as an operator is to be a net control station. Being net control is rewarding and it's not overly difficult. And the easiest and most accessible form of net control operation is to volunteer for your local net on a VHF repeater. Most repeaters sponsored by an amateur radio club or other organization usually will have a weekly swap or a fun net. You know, these nets are a little more relaxed than the traffic nets you'll find on HF or the severe weather nets that storm spotters may be involved in. But they are important nonetheless, and I encourage anyone wanting to be more active with their local amateur radio community to be involved with the net control for a local net.
Net on. Link on.
So So what does it take to be a net control station? Really not much, although there are some items that can make the net control experience a lot easier. So I'll go through the base equipment you'll need and some tips and tricks to make your life a lot easier. First off, the equipment. Although you can use an HT to run a net, I don't recommend generally using a handheld radio. Now I'm going to admit that my first ever net that I ran as net control, I did it on a handheld radio. You know, it did the job, but when you're running a net, you know, you're giving your radio a bit of a workout. So your handheld is going to get quite warm very fast, and then really who knows how long your battery is going to last. Plus, unless you have a speaker mic, you know, a handheld is going to be pretty inconvenient to hold while you're trying to write down information. So really, for convenience sake, you're going to want a mobile or a base radio. Now your base radio can be as simple as a 2-meter VHF radio or something more sophisticated like a dual band model. The advantages of going with a base station route is that, you know, you get a nice loudspeaker, that handheld microphone, multiple power levels, and of course an external antenna. You know, the brand and type of radio really doesn't matter. As a net control, you are in charge, so you're going to want a clean, strong signal, and you're going to be able to hear everyone. You don't need to be a superstation, you know, just a radio capable of transmitting a clean signal, and a good external antenna will do. Most VHF nets, unless you're running in simplex, you know, the repeater is going to be doing all of the work for you. So, you know, if you can hear the repeater well and you can get a strong signal to it, you're well on your way of being net control operator. Good evening, this is KB9VBR. My name is Michael. I'll be tonight's net control operator. Welcome to the WVRA Wednesday night net of the 147.135 and 146.865 repeater system. This is a weekly net providing a meeting place for amateur radio operators interested in buying, selling, or trading amateur radio equipment related items. In addition, questions, comments, or discussion regarding the technical aspects of amateur radio are also welcomed and encouraged. Following check-ins and announcements, we will have the ARRL audio news. Next up, you're going to need some instructions, and that'll be in the form of a net control script. All good nets are run from a script. Scripts are important because they provide predictability to the other stations, and the script will assure you that you don't miss a part. The biggest hurdle in any potential net control operator isn't their station. You know, trust me, your setup is going to be fine. But it's in not knowing what to say or do on the net. Well, the answer to that is easy. Just follow the script, and all will be good. I'll now accept check-ins for the net. Please call KB9VBR.
KB9VBR. This is KD9FLD. Traffic. KB9VBR. This is WS9E. Evening, Michael. No traffic. KB9VBR. Evening, Michael. This is Bob, WB9RND.
So as long as you go through the script, stations will check into the net, and you'll need to record that information. I like to use a steno notebook to log the stations checking into the net. You know, these work really well for me as, you know, they got the spiral binding on the top, so they're easy to write down. They have a stiff cover, so, you know, and a nice convenient size. Of course, you know, you can use whatever works best for you. You know, like a notebook, a scrap paper, you know, maybe an ICS 309 form, or a spreadsheet. But, you know, I've used all of those forms, even spreadsheets on a computer. But, you know, I usually, you know, gravitate back to the paper route. You know, it just seems to work best for me. And that's pretty much it. You know, there are a couple other odds and ends that you might also want, like spare pens and pencils. I've had those go out on me. You know, maybe a beverage. I keep some water handy for a long net. And anything else that will make your net control experience, you know, more pleasurable. So here's some tips that I've learned over the years of running nets. You know, these are little things that work well for me, so you can feel free to use them and adapt your own style. First off, have your supplies handy. Have your log, pens or pencils at the ready so you aren't scrambling during the net. Also, if there's any other materials like important dates or other information, pull those up on a computer screen or have that information handy so you're not searching around looking for that piece of information that's relevant for the net. Just to recap, the Wisconsin Valley Radio Association will have a VE testing session Saturday, October 26th. That'll be at the State Patrol headquarters in Wausau. I believe I don't have the exact time on here in front of me, but I believe that's going to be at probably 2 o'clock p.m. Stand by, I'll look it up quick. Be ready to start on time. Ham radio operators are an impatient lot. And, if you wait more than 1 minute past the starting time of the net, all of a sudden you're going to start hearing kerchunking to verify that the repeater is working or not. Third, don't worry if you can't copy all the call signs. An experienced net control operator makes it look effortless as they copy call signs. And as you do a net for a few times, you're going to recognize people by voice and be able to copy their call regardless of the conditions. And my recommendation is to increase proficiency, is to practice logging, station check-ins when you aren't the net control. Do that for a couple of times and you'll be ready to run the net yourself. Another tip, if you're having trouble copying call signs, is to maybe maintain a list of frequent callers. Then you have a reference to look up the call, if the transmission's kind of weak or garbled. Next up, one trick I like to do is to welcome every checked-in station by name. With practice, you'll know the names of all of the regulars that participate. All checking in with no traffic is KD9FLD Chris, good evening to you. WS9E Joe, another good evening. And Bob, WB9R&D, good evening to you. Do we have any other stations wishing to check in, either with or without traffic? Please call now at KB9VBR. But I also keep a browser window open on my computer screen so that I can quickly enter in the call sign of an unrecognized person on your call and come back to them with their name. This isn't necessary, but I think it makes for a more friendly net. And finally, every net has a net manager. They are the person that coordinates the net control operators and makes sure everything runs in an orderly fashion. When you're ready to take on the net, give the net manager a call and sign up for a spot on the rotation. I assure you, you're going to love it. Do you have any tips for an expiring net control station? Or do you want to run a net and still have questions? Well, please leave them in the comments below. I'll filter through them and keep the conversation going. Maybe one will even show up in the next Your Questions Answered video. And for more articles and information, be sure to check out my blog at www.jpole-antenna.com. Your support of this channel drives the production of future videos. So if you like this video,
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Good.
So did every net control operator recognize every one of the problems he had? Yes. Mike looked over at me because last week I started the net. I went, oh, rats, right? It's the rats. At 8:18 or at 8:18 instead of 8:15, like running across the living room and hit the button to go start it. It's 3 minutes late. Ooh, did I hear about it? But
Well, in 2 weeks, and what was it, a week before, or 2 weeks before, Brandmeister was down.
yeah, 2 weeks before, Brandmeister was down on the DNR stuff, so we were talking to ourselves, we couldn't go out anywhere in the state, so. Everything happens if you're wanting to join in, you'll see stuff happening. If you're wanting to be in that control, be ready for stuff happening.
Get that fixed already?
Yeah, the Brandmeister, yeah, they got it fixed that night. The server out of Dallas.
That manager now,
On that manager on DMR,
on any of them.
we'll talk about that at the end. We're gonna bring them all up and go through that. Good question. He said, who's the net managers? And we'll go through that at the end. We'll get them all up here with the big spotlights on them. One thing that he's talking about for net controls, it also goes for people checking into the net. Get there, get your equipment set up, make sure you have a good signal to get in. A handy talkie may work just fine, but you gotta probably have a good antenna. So a handy talkie from inside in the basement It probably won't work. But make sure that you have this stuff set up, ready to go. And then one other piece is on all of these nets, doesn't matter what it is remember, see, aim, ready, aim, fire, aim, ready. Which one is it? It's ready, aim, fire. When you grab the microphone, you're ready. When you aim, you click the button down. And you wait, depending on the systems you're on. If you're on a repeater system, probably 1 second is a good time to wait. Because you gotta wait till all of the receiver kicks on, the transmitter kicks on, and the end user guy's radio wakes up. So it's called quick keying. And if you don't do that, if you start giving your call sign, this is N5, and then I hit the button, all they'll hear is ZR at the other end of that radio. Doesn't matter if you're the net control or if you're the person that's there running through the net. Both need to pause. You gotta go through that. If you're Bob Gibson back there with his 18 amplifiers, how many you got now? You're at 12 kilowatts, is that what you're running, Bob? 12 kilowatts, how much you running for power?
Legally?
Yeah, buddy, you answered my question. We'll pop this up.
That might be key up on mic stand.
But when you hit those amplifiers, if you're on HF, if you have an amplifier that's driving an amplifier, you will hear relays click, click, click. And it's not good until that final one clicks in. So short keying will make you not heard on any transmission, but on nets, it's really bad because if you're doing a net, you just hear the last 2 digits and you have no idea who that is. You don't get enough audio to make it work. To make that thing work for you. So quick keying is not a good thing. Key the button down, talk, and then unkey. So make sure you practice that. If you hear somebody else has anybody heard somebody else chopping off the first part of their call sign? Yeah. Do they know that they're chopping off the first part of their call sign?
No.
You might politely ask them or tell them, hey, you might, key and then wait a second. And they don't know that they're chopping off that call sign. Their system may take a little bit longer than somebody else's, so feel free to bring that up when you're talking to somebody. If I cut off the first part of my call sign, you can call me out. Yeah. Sometimes on a net, when you're busy, I get it, but not every time. Other thing to remember here that he did not push through is phonetic alphabet. A lot of people will pull the phonetic alphabet. So everybody know the phonetic alphabet? Bravo, Charlie, Delta. And be ready for people, I'll say like me, that may come in and say N5 top zoom in radio. And you're not supposed to do it, but a lot of people will do that, come through on the net with a weird phonetic. So as you're making that happen, you've only got so much time to go through it. I know Mike and I were talking about this, setting it up, that he operates different than I do. I just let call signs blast, and he said, "Oh my God, how do you get that? How do you write them all down? How do you stay up?" And my attitude was, well, between call signs, I'm Googling stuff on the web and watching the script on this side. So I'm bored between call signs. And poor Mike is just, so that's what he's doing. What the other Michael was talking about. It's better has anybody tried to do a net control while they're listening to a net? Yep. Feel free to try that. If you can copy it down, that's good. And it's practice. I've done that for 40 years. And for me, it's just, okay, I heard this, put it down. It's a lot like Morse code, where you have to listen and think about what you're talking about. Each net has its own little rules, call sign, name, location, and I do for like weather nets, I will put the time of check-ins. So if somebody has to come back and say, hey, when did Rodney check in? There it is right there. So I'll even add time to that. Most like the DMR nets, I don't do that with, but the weather ones I will do. When you start, it will seem impossible. Trust me. right, Mike?
Yes.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, it really does.
However, there's people out, you don't have to tell them you're new at this. They know it. They've got it figured out. However, they're your friends. You know, it's like when you're talking in front of a group, they say, think of people in their underwear. And then I thought of Bill Lockett, and that's wasted me forever. That doesn't work with me anymore.
Yeah.
So when you're on the net, panic, think of Bill Lockett's underwear. But all of us are there to help.
Oh.
And help this guy, I won. But all of us are there to help. If something goes up, you heard the guy here, he didn't know where something was. He stopped the net, said stand by, and he went and found the answer. I've done that a bunch of times. Not the worst thing in the world. Yes, you will make mistakes. And I can't list the number of mistakes that I've made. Have you made a mistake, Mike?
Yes, I have.
I've made it plenty. Dad calls me on them every time.
I usually get a text from Ed when something goes bad. What are you doing? So yes, you'll make mistakes, but over time it'll get easier. You'll get stuff that you can write it down. Same thing as if you're joining in that. Once you key in that first time, I know I'm sure you're scared to death the first time you key in that. If you want help, Tuesday night, that's here at the Elmer night. We'll be happy to help you sign into the Aries net and to the gossip net. Thank you. And we're happy to make that happen. But over time, it gets better. It should go over and over. If you want to do this, you'll want to review the scripts. Each net will have a script. If you want to say, hey, I really want, Gail's jumped in and she said, I want to do this. And somebody in our problem.
Well,
Somebody
actually,
got
my girl, I need help.
Yes.
And like an idiot, I said, okay.
Like a good,
Like I said, you're done.
good infantry control operator, you jump in. But each net has a script. So once you get handy writing stuff down, find a net that you like and say, hey, whoever's running the net, say, I'd like to see the script. I'm interested in helping out. And they'll attack you.
Yes, yes, we will.
And I have to tell you, it is actually fun to do.
It is fun to do. It really is. Once you get started on it, then you get over the scary part, you're fine. So each one has a script. You don't have to think of what to say. Contact those operators, they'll take care of them. I put the full script for the DMR on that net control page. So it's available for you to look at that one. But here's a script for that DMR net. And that first preamble tells where it is, where to find it, kind of get the net set. We get a lot of people from out of state on that net. And they just see something happening and they come listen. So this DMR script will let you do the preamble. It's the first part. Usually put your name, your location, and your call sign in there something. But each script, the VHF net has a different script. 6 meters has a different script. The weather ones have different scripts.
Avon, John.
Somebody doorbell. The big point of this preamble is to set your radio properly. If you're on VHF, you want to check the volume, frequency, and other settings. So if you have something set up where it's too loud, or you're not hearing it, or you got to make a change to it. I've got a speaker system, and usually the radio's on, but it doesn't come out of the right speaker. Where is it? That preamble is where you can listen and tune your radio to get it all good to go. Don't wait until you got a key. On HF, the published frequency is a general location. You want to set your radio to that frequency, 50.2, let's say. But during that radio's preamble, so whoever's ever doing that preamble, whoever's doing that talking, you want to tune your radio to their frequency. Yes, it's going to be off. You're going to be 40 hertz high and 60 hertz low, or 20 hertz something else. Your dial isn't right. Those are close things, but you want to line your signal up with that other person's. So you don't want to do your RIT, which is receiver incremental tuning. You want to do the main frequency. So you're going to transmit on the same frequency as that other guy does. Does that make sense? Is there anybody doing that? Turn a net? Or you just dial up the frequency and you go, boop, I'm done. Yeah, you go boop, and all that boop, gets in trouble. Do what?
That's got it set as a dial.
Yeah, you dial it. So when you're net control, that's fine. You are the net control frequency. That's it. If you're 20 hertz high, everybody should match you. Two reasons. One is, do you have to move your tuning when somebody else talks on HF? So if Bill Baker talks or Bill Lockett talks, are they a little bit different frequency? Yeah, they are. What the problem is if Bill's 100 hertz high and Denny's 100 hertz low, you've now increased your bandwidth. Normal bandwidth is this much for sideband. If Bill's high and Denny's low, you could probably still hear a couple hundred hertz out, but you'll be zipping back and forth. And now you're taking up, instead of the 2.6 kilohertz, you're taking up 4 kilohertz. So you're eating up more of the band, and you'll probably get people mad at you that you're taking up too wide a band. Or somebody else will try to encroach in on it. They'll hear Mike and they'll stay away from him. And then shoot, my radio's a little bit high. It's not that they're broke. It's not that they're off. Those radios have tolerances of at least 1 hertz per million. So you can sit there and watch them. If you're doing an HF net, listen the next time and you'll say, oh yeah, he's high, he's low, she's this way. So do that during the preamble, lock your signal into that other person, and then you'll be in good shape. This puts everybody in the same band. Preamble states, defines the net, how do you operate, what comes in, what they should expect. It also contains a statement that's important, which is the net. Some, let's say not only amateur radio operators, impatient, they will also say, my gosh, this is my frequency, and they'll start running on top of you. So with the signal, if you put that out that says, hey, other operators, please stand by, it will warn them that they should stand by, and you have a leg to stand on when they start interfering with your net. We have had court cases where people do that kind of thing. They get crossways, where guy come in on a repeater down the edge, Jeff's going, yeah, it wasn't you, was it, Jeff?
No, but I've heard stories here recently
Oh, again?
on YouTube of stuff like that happening.
Yep, there's one down in Wichita Falls that they actually took it to court. The guy said, I have the right to be on that frequency. Give me a break. Remember, you may have heard these preambles 1,000 times, but there's always a new person on board, whether or not they transmit. How many of you listen to a net? There's a laugh to Jim. How many of you listen for more than one time before you transmit it? I always tell people, when we're doing those weather nets, be careful. There are probably 300 or 400 people that are listening to that net. There might be 20 or 30 checking in, but oh my gosh, everybody knows that weather net is there and they're listening. I was at a grocery store once a long time ago, and a lady behind me in line, I talked to the clerk, and a lady behind me in my line said, "You're Mark Kleine, N5HZR."
Heck, did we know that?
Yeah.
Not before today.
Yeah, not today, they wouldn't recognize, yeah, that's how she go party today. But she recognized my voice and said, yeah, I listened to you on the weather net. I know when you're excited, I need to be paying attention. And if you're just going, yeah, whatever, don't worry about it, then that's not a big deal. And my exact words were, I should probably pay attention to that a little bit more. And her response was, you probably should. So there's hundreds of people listening to you, whether you know it or not, which is crazy. Next part of the script is traffic. Are there any stations with emergency priority of formal traffic? Nets are a good place for people to check in. So let's say I'm out on a boat somewhere and I know there's a net, a 10-meter net, and I need help. I can jump in on that net and say, I need help. I'm at this place. They know that people know a net is a good place to go get help. They know there's gonna be somebody listening to those nets. So usually you break to say, are there any emergency priority or formal traffic? Formal traffic would be National Traffic System, but NTS things as well. Usually if it's emergency, you handle it right now. If it's priority, you handle it in the net somehow. Formal usually is handled off frequency, where you say, hey, I don't know, let's say Larry is the net operator. You and Larry go over to some other frequency and pass that traffic. But emergency stuff, take off and go with it. Regular check-ins part shows up. This sets the tone on how people should check in. Mike does it different than I do. Lee does it different than I do on the DMR net. I'm sure Gail does it different. Everybody does something a little different. So if you have a difference, put it in there and make it happy. It sets that tone on what you should expect and how it should be. So tell the rules and make it happen. Post loop is there at the end of the net to tell we're done with the net, or we're turning that repeater to the normal amateur use. So that people, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, most repeaters in the Oklahoma area are, that means it won't be used until the net. Here, next net. Here in Norman, we use not all the time. It tells people when they're over and they can go back. So when they say the net's over, as soon as that's done, I can call Mike and say, hey, good job on the net, or something else, whatever it is, or I can call somebody else. Legal requirements. Legally, you still have to ID. And that's what?
3 minutes.
Or and
The end of the transmission.
at the end of the transmission. Doesn't have to be the last word you say. It has to be in that last transmission. So if you look back at my script here, it says at the bottom, this is N5HZR closing the net and returning to the repeaters to the normal amateur use. I don't have to say N5HZR at the end. It's in that last transmission. But yeah, you got to do it every 10 minutes. You will hear net controls do it more frequently because A, they got to remember what 10 minutes is, and they're not, they're doing other stuff. So they just plot it out there every time that they think they need to do it. 10 minutes is a long time, unless you're running a net. And it's crazy. Net controls will also usually ID so that they know who to call, that a stranger coming to the net knows who you are. It's not that they're vain and they want their call sign everywhere. Okay, yeah, it is. Like, yeah.
One comment I want to make on at that point, when they're doing net control, it doesn't, they come in sometimes like Mike does, or I'll do it on the weather net. So you know that it's actually a weather net. It's not just people chit chatting on the radio. They actually know it's a directed net. It's a weather net, and they don't just need to come in and talk. So that's why he'll do it frequently for that reason.
Yeah.
Here's these nets. So if the people that are running these nets or net controls can stand up, come to the front, dance or whatever it is. These are the nets that we run throughout the month. And like I said, we run about 56 nets. Unless there's weather, we run more. Mike, what do you run, Mike?
I'm the manager for the Aries training net. Mark and I tag team on the weather net, and then I also help out with the Aries DMR net.
So you're not busy at all.
Not like Denny.
Yeah. We alternate those.
Yes.
So it's not like you're dedicated to do it. If he's out of town, we swap to somebody else. So you're not dedicated every time. You're not stuck with it.
Correct. Like on the Aries training net, we've got Gail, Davey, myself. Do we have anybody else right now? Oh, Galen.
Yeah, okay.
And then Jim, he's been kind of AOL.
AOL.
Yeah, but we could definitely use some more net control operators for the Aries training net. And I'll be honest, that's one of the easiest nets to be net control
Yes.
operator. It's all scripted, and you have call signs of who's supposed to be on the net, and you just go down the list. And
Spreadsheet.
yeah, a spreadsheet, and you just check it off. And then at the very end, you ask, if there's anybody that's new or visitors. And then you handwrite those in and put those on the spreadsheet. So if you're entertaining the thought at all, that's a great net to start with. It's probably one of the easiest.
One quick thing I want to add on the weather net, weather doesn't come at any particular time. And if he's running the weather net up until say 10 or 11 at night, he's still got to get up at 5 the next morning to work. He'll pass it off to me, and I may run it to 2 in the morning. So he can go to bed. So it's always good to have backup for these nets, because you never know, the person doing it might have to step out for a reason.
Well, and interject the weather net, and I know Mark has the redundancy also. I've got multiple computer monitors up, so I'm watching radar, I'm watching the National Weather Service, I'm watching emails. Then I have multiple radios for backup, and I have multiple batteries for backup, and multiple antennas. So if one goes down, I've got backup. And same way with the internet, I've got backup for that as well. So Mark and I, like you said, we tag team. He may be on for 3 or 4 or 5 hours, and I'll take over for a few hours, especially on those long weather nights. We swap off back and forth for that. So. And then on the Aries DMR net, that was when I first started being net control, that was probably my most stressful net. Because I listened to Mark, and like he said earlier, he just asked for, people wanting to check in, and I mean, it sounds like 1,000 people all at once trying to check in. And he's writing them all down. I don't know. I still don't know how he does it. But Lee Greenlee, he's one of our net control operators. He's kind of out for a while, but I learned from him. When I'm getting ready to call the net, I ask for people to check in one at a time and phonetically wait to be recognized for the second person to check in. And then I go that route because I'm a little bit hard of hearing for one. And yeah. But that gives me just a little bit of time to be able to hear everybody. And if you're brand new on calling it and you missed their call sign, I mean, I was nervous as heck when I first started calling it. Ask them. I mean, Denny is great at this. I mean, if you've ever listened to the MacNet, Denny is like, the pro of the pros. I mean, if he doesn't hear them, he'll ask them. If their signal's sketchy, he tells them. I mean, I've learned so much just from listening to Denny on the MacNet. And he's one of the all-time greats, I think.
One thing I want to add to what he said about hearing them out there and writing it down. When he's running the weather net, I'm sitting there monitoring and I'm writing all those down. Who they are, what their name is, where their location is, what they might have reported. That way, if he passes it off, I've still got it written down. Same thing, if I'm doing it, he's writing it down. So if I pass it to him, he's still got that updated information of who's already been on there, who's still on there.
Yeah, the weather net is a little bit different. Whenever somebody check, and if you all want to spot, and you have training on spotting, we welcome anybody who wants a spot for that. You spot right from your house. You don't have to go out and chase anything. But the weather net, we log the time and location of anybody that's spotting for us. Anytime that they make a report, I log the time and location of that report. At the end of the net, then Mark and I get together, we gather all that information up and we send that out to the emergency managers of Cleveland County that ask us to monitor. So it's a little bit more in depth. The rest of these nets are really a lot of fun and just easy.
Yeah, siren net, I don't know, Ed, are you on?
There's no siren net today.
There's no siren net today? Nope. So you can probably drink it. Siren net runs too. That's another easy one to do, and that you're going down the list with all those. And chasing that, whoops, we had a whole thing here. David needs someone to turn off his radio. Is there no test today? Okay. Got it. I will turn it off before dinner. So I guess we're not doing that. Thank you, Rick. But this siren net is normally a very easy one to do. There's a computer system that I built that gives you the call signs, the ones to come through. So if you want to do that, that's a great one. They're looking for more people right now. They only have 2 folks that are doing those nets, Ed and Wayne. So if you'd like to jump onto that one as well, that'd be cool to have you on board as well. The Aries training net, you probably need a couple more.
We could definitely use a couple more. The great thing about the Aries training net, right now we have 4 people. It's scripted, really easy.
One call, just one thing down there.
Yeah, you just go down the list. But the great thing about it is you don't be doing it like once every 5 weeks, 5 or 6 weeks. So,
Yeah, you're not doing it every week.
yeah, it's not every week, and it's a great one to learn on.
That one better than our first learning because instead of having to call the list and then, asking for late miss visitors, then you go back through the list. Aries, and all you do is just write down just one time. And it made it easier to learn.
Yeah, the area's that simple, that's a simple, so.
So is Gossip Net needing more operators, you know, report net controls?
Oh, who can control that?
Hmm?
Who has control of that?
I don't know who's running the net control, the Gossip Net.
I know there's three controllers, Davey, Lucky, and Terry.
Oh,
Those are the only three on that.
so they could use a couple more as well. MacNet, who's doing, did he do it all of them?
If he has a doctor's appointment and he's in the doctor's, I do the magnet.
So we could use more from the MacNet, that's the mornings, 9 o'clock morning net.
I don't know if that would do, what if he didn't do the magnet.
No, it's a great thing to do, it's a wonderful thing to think of. Aries Net, the Oklahoma Aries DMR Net is, we've got, 3 of us, we can always use more, so if you're on DMR, chase that one down. 6 meters and 10 meters, I know we're looking for net controls, also they have, you know, a couple of them that are there, but, it's nice when you have 4 or 5. And you can go,
Who controls the 6 and 10 meter net?
who controls the 6 and 10 meter nets? 6 is probably. Is that, Tom? TKH 5 AAA, TKH 6 AAA. And then, 10 meters is probably.
Bill, WG5T.
Bill Baker, WG5T. Bill, do you have anything you want to say? Is he here?
Yeah, he's up there.
We're all involved.
Yeah, they're all, they muted themselves, so they don't. But that's really the list of what we've got. www.nor.org/net control has all of this information listed there. We'd love to have more people involved in the nets and more people as net controls. That's the purpose of this whole thing. Thank you all. Yes, sir, Dave?
I know last Wednesday when I did the 10 meter net, we had about 8 checking.
Yeah,
I'd like to see more.
Crank up that 10 meter net.
yeah.
Good deal.
And we need more ladies doing it.
Yeah, we do. If
We
they pay
do.
attention and they do a better job.
Right.
Yeah.
We really need more ladies doing the, net. That would be wonderful.
Y'all are luckier, the only 2 YLs. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Mark, you, talked in the presentation about the ag, a lot about the ag, you're, copying down the call signs, doing all of those things. So, one, what is the purpose? Is there an underlying purpose for doing that? And secondly, is that something you provide as a record, or you that, you know, the participants of that, you turn it into someone?
We typically, the question was, documentation, you know, we're writing everything down, why do we do that? Bunch of reasons. One is, it's great practice for a real net, like Mike said, when it's a real weather situation, you gotta know that I talked to Margaret and she's here, and then I see a storm comes right at her. I know that she was there 10 minutes ago, and I can go back and say, hey, coming your way. And that's a big, a real net, so it's really good practice for that. We typically report only quantities, you know, totals. So that so many people, 30 people were involved. We don't do a detailed network piece. It is available. It's stuff. All the net controls have them. So if you want to see something, then go chase it down. Not a problem to go chase it down. But nothing is turned into anybody in by name except for weather. Siren, very important. Siren is detailed by name. That's a good point. Siren is detailed by name and call sign.
On Aries, we put them on there, too,
Right.
if they come in.
Yes.
Yeah, we put the call sign in there and so that way if they come on again, if they keep coming, then Michael happens to do it.
And the sirens are important because there are, if you think hams are impatient, there are general public people that are less impatient. And David Grizzle will get a call from a general person and they'll say, this siren didn't sound. And he can go online, anybody can go online, w5nor.org/siren, and you can see what day and who reported. So if he looks at it and he knows that that person has been there a million years, he knows it's a trustworthy answer, and he can tell the person on the phone, well, we have a report that it's good to go. And it is sounding. You might make sure you're outside and it's not an inside siren. Yeah. But that's the only thing for documentation. Yes.
Is there things or subjects or areas that you would not want to talk about on the net?
Just like all the rest of the amateur radio, anything controversial, politics, sex, religion, all the fun stuff.
Ailments.
Ailment, yeah. Or internet, yes, that's, but no, the politics, sex, and religion, are the politics, sex and religion, those kind of things that you don't want to do.
Any other questions for Mark?
Just like all the fun.
Let's give him a big hand. Let's take a 5-minute break. 5-minute break.
Hey, Mark,
Hey, Lee.
can I ask you a question? Or can I say something that for the EOC, them giving their address or where they're at helps us plot it on the board. So when we're getting weather, we can ask a specific person what's going on.
Right.
I do. Okay. Thank you.
I've got it all. It'll be staff, but I've got I got another. I don't know, I mean, used to, time, the back of the day, you really that way, don't have to look at it. Yeah. You did well. Hey, Mark. Yeah, I didn't have to.
Yeah.
Hey, Robbie, just remind them, next month, we need yeah. So,
Yeah.
but don't know.
No, I'm.
Yeah.
I don't have this graph.
Yeah.
But anyway.
I don't forget. Like, you had her who was in there.
There's a big sign. It's even here on the able for you.
I don't know though.
You gotta hold your microphone in your other hand. Yeah.
Yeah, see, that's not a problem. Do anything.
Okay, let's get going.
So, you know.
Let's start with introductions. Let's start with Mark Clayton. Mark, N5HZR. And Kleine
N5HZR radio.
Chris, K5JBM.
Hey, I'm 5RO Gale.
Davey, KD5DTD.
Aaron, KG5LQX. Henry, KG5BW. Gary, KG5FGP.
James, KG5LC.
Bob, W5RD. Another Bob, KF5TVG.
Cheryl, KJ5HF.
KJ5HFN.
Jeff, KG5CKK.
David, KI5QMF. Mike, KE5ASN.
Margaret, KJ5FQH.
L85L.
Larry, W5LHG.
Bill, AE5F.
Fred, KC5FPZ. Clifton, and I'm visiting.
Well, no number.
Vaughn, KG5DWO.
Robert, KI5GK.
Aubrey, KF5VJH.
Bob, KD5MPD.
KJ5GAF, right?
I'm James, KJ5HFM. I'm still learning it. Randy, Brian,
Mike, KJ5CHD.
Rick, AI5IJ.
Ken, K-A-W-G-E.
J-O-K-I-5-A-G.
Here, Maggie, 42. Mike, N5SOF.
And I'm Rodney, KF5UZA.
They're all screen behind you.
Larry used to have it. All right. We have Bill, Wayne. Welcome, Wayne. Didn't see you up there earlier. Lee, Carl, Ed, and Mike.
You can.
And Ken. Ken's still connecting. Good. All right, the next thing on the agenda is a moment of silence, but before that, I'm gonna have Bob talk about. Okay.
Yeah, on the Ham holiday weekend, I happened to bump into the general manager of a really good barbecue restaurant in Western Avenue. I won't say their name, but you probably know who it is.
Starts with an S.
Starts with an S. And anyhow, the manager's brother, Jimmy Burgess, W5JLB, became a silent key about 1.5 years ago. And Jimmy's issues right before he passed away was to pass on his radio to another ham radio operator that also has physical disabilities. Jimmy had cerebral palsy. And anyhow, when I heard about that, I said, well, we need to figure out who might be able to take advantage of that. And the equipment is an ICOM IC7100, which is a HF, VHF, UHF, all mode radio. Also a center that goes with that, an MFJ 939, a Hustler vertical antenna. I'm not sure how many bands. It looks like maybe a 5 or 6 band vertical antenna. An ICOM ID 880H, which is a VHF, UHF,